Well, I don't know if I want to like take sides.
This is what this podcast is about. Taking sides.
Listen,
Taking sides on things and then issuing retractions later.
listen. I already
Let's
know
not get ahead of the
Lyndon
game.
is the reason people listen to this podcast. Okay, I get it. I understand. It's fine.
To be honest, if I had to listen to like an ASMR thing, I think I'd prefer Lyndon's voice
Oh.
as opposed to Troy's voice.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I do have a bit of a cheese grater of a voice.
No, I wouldn't say
That's
cheese
not
grater.
true. Come on,
It's
Troy.
just-
I'm just fishing for compliments.
No.
now.
It's more like powerful. Like it just really enters into your heart of whoa. There's this
Yeah.
guy's talking to me.
Like
but if
the
I'm
spirit.
if I'm trying to fall, sure, yeah. If I'm trying to
Exactly
fall
like
asleep
that.
and I want to listen to someone unboxing some iPhones or something like that, I want to hear Lyndon's
should do
sultry
that.
tones.
We should like get something and pretend it's an iPhone. Have you open it, Lyndon?
I think it should be a new YouTube video. 10 hours of Lyndon eating pickles.
Lo-fi,
10 hours of labored breathing.
lo-fi hip hop Lyndon Naglis for
Yeah.
study. Oh, that's gross.
Oh boy. I had my headphones off for most of that, so I hope this is all
It came
right.
through.
Guys, this is Mission Stories. We're here.
We're doing it.
We're all doing it. We're all here. The two podcasts I do are combining right now into one synergistic podcast. It's incredible.
The podcasts of God, like a fire, are burning.
Are burning. See, this is
They aren't that.
this is what we've been missing. I don't want to say a true believer because Lyndon and I are true believers too, but a true believer.
What does that mean?
I don't know. On some things more, some things less.
Yeah.
Should we get down to it? You don't believe the Earth is round? Was that one of your things?
Whoa. Don't put me in that camp.
Did we bring a flat earther onto the show?
No. Oh my goodness. Now I feel like no
No.
matter what, some people are always going to associate that in their mind after they've forgotten everything else from the
Yeah.
podcast. Oh, isn't
Yeah.
Theo Gibb a flat earther or
Yeah, I
something?
swear he's a flat Earth.
Oh, no, guys, that is not true.
No.
I completely disavow that.
Okay. People aren't going to remember that, though. They're just going to remember my initial statement.
Yep.
You're... I love this. We're just putting on blast right from
Do
the
it.
get-go.
You already put me on blast a couple episodes
I
ago.
know I
so.
did. Do you want to remind
we?
everyone?
Well,
Well, you came, you like texted me and you're like, I can't, you blasted me.
Yeah, I did.
On the podcast.
I was listening
I was
and it's-
worried for a second. I was
no,
like,
no.
what
I
did
was never mad about it.
what
I
did I
get it. You're
say?
trying to have fun. You're. It's part of the game. But you were like,
You think this is a game, Theo?
you were referring to an episode we did on the whatever week of Good Report podcast.
Yeah, which one was that?
That was the Joseph Smith one.
Yeah.
We talked about polygamy.
I go
and,
crazy.
and on the
I go crazy
podcast,
on that
you're like,
episode.
you say, I think the church needs to disavow
Yeah.
Joseph Smith's polygamy in a church movie. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
whoa.
I still think they do.
And then you said,
In a movie specifically.
it's fine. You can
Yeah.
say that here. This is your podcast. But then I was like, okay, first off, that's not an official position of this podcast and stuff, you know. And
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
like, on this one, you're like,
You're like,
and
it's
so
an
Theo
official position of
started
half
like
of it.
shaking, and he was like, I don't know, geez, guys,
I didn't say you were shaking.
you were doing a voice.
Oh
And I was like, I
no.
don't think I was that bad, but
No, it's true. I don't know. Lyndon's. I can't remember if you said that on mic or not. What did you say? Everyone's Orthodox compared to me,
Yeah.
which I take some. I'm not that much offense, but it's true. Like I don't know.
it's a big tent.
Forget what I was gonna say.
You know, I would have defended you, Theo, at the time, but I never listened to the other podcast.
Couldn't be bothered.
I could hardly be bothered to listen to a good
You
report.
couldn't be bothered to care. Should we segue into our other topic we want to discuss?
Have we
today?
told anyone what this podcast is and what we're doing, who's here?
No. Nor shall we.
Okay.
Continuing on. No, just kidding. Oh, no way. We just got an email just now
Oh man.
from Jasmine Anderson.
Oh,
And
boy.
the subject is I can hardly be bothered. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, boy.
So we should talk about that. But this is Mission Stories, and this is a podcast where we talk about what do we talk like? I don't even the definition of this podcast is getting more and more loose. But
I recruited a few new listeners yesterday.
Oh nice.
nice.
Got a new Instagram follow. And, yeah, I struggled.
What is the podcast?
They're like, it's like, I hear you like podcasts. Like, yeah, I listen to podcasts. I was like, here's one for you. Mission stories.
It's like Mormon stories, but like less apostate.
Yeah.
on the
I
spectrum.
actually brought that up.
More fun.
Yeah, right. More fun.
It's a little bit more fun.
I was like, there's mission stories, and it's all. I gave him the old sales pitch. I'm like, if you're doing the dishes, why not have Troy and Lyndon hang out with you while you do the dishes?
Yeah. That is the big sell. Just like when you're doing the mundane task, put us in. Put your two best friends in your ears.
So the subtitle for this is Mission Stories. Doing dishes with Troy and Lyndon.
We should change it.
Driving home from work with Troy and Lyndon.
But this is mission stories, and we do tell mission stories, and we talk about missions, and we also talk about the church-related news.
Topical topics.
Topical topics. I was going to say Mormon-related things, but I don't think we can say that anymore. That's another thing we got to talk about.
I think
Why don't you call your topical topics the topical guide?
Oh,
like
that's a little too on the nose.
All right,
it's too late. We can't go changing things
All
now,
right.
Theo.
Sorry.
This isn't a change stories.
Okay.
It's mission stories.
But we have a guest.
We have a guest. Yeah.
Is this a crossover episode?
Sure is, baby.
Mr. Peanut Butter over here. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we got a guest named Theo Gibb. Welcome,
me.
Theo.
Yes.
You
Is
and I.
Strange to introduce him as a guest.
I don't know, because he's our good friend.
Oh.
And you do a podcast with him.
And we do I do a podcast with him, and now he's on this podcast. And there's so many. My life this year has been like a lot of podcasts and podcasting, and Theo's been a nice part of that.
Aw.
I feel like not a lot of people maybe know or follow the other podcast. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of shared. Well,
There's some.
I bet it's mostly shared overlap. Those who do listen to the movie podcast, but we talk about Mormon movies.
Yep.
We're kind of
done.
We're kind of done.
Kind of at the end of that.
Lyndon has these weird feelings about the podcast.
Are they weird?
I don't know.
I think they're very clear how I feel about it.
All right. Well, should we get into it right now, or should we?
I don't know if the listeners really care about the inter-podcast drama.
I think that they do, Theo.
Okay.
I think it's actually their favorite thing.
I think.
Oh, great.
Email after email.
Here's no feeling. Here's just some feedback.
Okay.
That's what my job here is.
Yeah.
I'm the feedback collector, public relations.
Right.
To this day, I still get feedback.
The Father of Dragons.
They're like, you know what my least favorite episode is?
Oh, no.
that random one about the singles ward
Okay, who
with
said
that
that?
other guy.
I-
I'm like, funny.
To be fair,
That's not even our podcast. It's
I think
just
that
I
was
don't
like
know
our worst
why.
episode. Like, we spend
think
so
so?
long kind of like just talking around the point, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I'd love to take a scalpel to it, maybe just cut it down.
So my thought is, if you're gonna have an episode of A Good Report on the Mission Stories playlist,
We
why
got
not put the best one on there?
probably the best 2 years. Maybe it's the best one we did.
I don't know if it is.
Why
It's
put
the
the
best
hot,
movie.
steaming garbage episode?
I got
Oh,
and
the
attach
Book of
it to
Mormon
Mission
movie.
Stories.
Book of Mormon movie might be good.
Yeah.
I like the Joseph Smith because I get to really get my rocks off talking about
He
like,
sure
what the,
does. Oh, I
what
just
the
really
church
whistled
should
there.
do.
Yeah.
I just incriminate myself really bad, and
Yeah. You get a phone call from your
What's the
bishop.
episode I watched? The Book of Mormon.
you're
one?
the book. Yeah,
See, that one was good.
Oh,
Book of Mormon. I like the 17
See,
Miracles.
I can be bothered.
thanks,
He
Lyndon.
can be bothered. That's the title of the episode. He can be bothered. There's so much to talk about. I do want to. I want to talk about topical topics with
Okay,
our
all
man
right, let's-
Theo, and I promise
do
we won't
have,
say
Do
anything.
we have just that email?
I think we may have a couple more.
Because we might want to read the
emails.
emails to feed us into.
True. Let me just. I'll bring it up on my phone this time. Usually I'm on the actual. Oh, it went right to it. Perfect.
Because I feel like we have to introduce our new segment. Here's what I was really saying. Here's what I really meant. We'll have like a little do 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 do.
All right, so here's a scary email. This is another one from Satan Lucifer. This
love
is
these.
scares me. This is scary. Was this you, Theo?
It was not me. Okay,
All
I
right.
have not written a single email since the one email I wrote.
All right, I'm just gonna do this. Try to keep
Okay,
that
all right.
right in front of your face. That would be so good.
Yeah, my parents were like, we used to like Theo.
What? Did they really say that?
Yeah.
No one is safe from the wrath of Lyndon's disapproval.
What did I do?
Lyndon's
You
parents'
wrote that
disapproval.
email.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What did I do? What did I do?
It
He
got
asks.
revealed that you wrote that email, and they're like, We used to like Theo. But that's gone.
All the respect for you is gone.
You didn't even read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if he
Actually, we did, but then we cut it out.
Oh, you did?
it was all recorded.
And then Lyndon felt extremely uncomfortable with it. Like I said, I think my barometer for like what's appropriate and what's not is just very either slowly or quickly just has evaporated, and I don't know what's right or not. And on that note, let's read Satan's email. Hello, boys. Sit right down, and I'll tell you right now how hell goes down. I wake up in the morning, 10 o'clock. It's always sunny, so I go for a walk. Catch mission stories while I'm out. Laugh at the topics they're talking about. Just down the road, I catch my friend. She's naked, but I look because it ain't a sin. Jeez, this is the first time I'm reading this. She's like, hey, Dev, what's going on? I say it's time to sing along. Get down with my hell song. Hell, hell, hell. Life here is swell. It's not as bad as you think it'd be. You don't have to drink the coffee and tea. Sure, there ain't no reproducing. It leaves more time for fun-inducing. Hell, hell, hell. This is incredible. Whoever wrote this is like a talent.
I think you did ask them. You were like, tell us how hell is.
I did, yeah.
So
Fair enough. Well, thanks to Satan for this email.
Another email.
Just addressing him directly.
Yep.
This one's from Alex Williams. He says drugs should be decriminalized, not necessarily legalized.
That's my take, but I agree with Alex.
True and faithful Alex. P.S. Yeah, alcohol is awful.
Sure is.
And then P.P.S. Postscript. Yeah, do a Patreon. He's talking about like the $116 we need to raise in order to keep doing this for next year. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see.
We got at least one Patreon.
Who's that?
Alex Williams.
Alex W. Maybe he can give us the full bit. This one's from your bro, who we had on last week. Quite a reception to that episode. People really seem to like it.
Oh, yeah. I told him, I was like, your episode's blowing up.
Yeah, it was.
And then he said, how so? And then I think I never responded to him.
Well, it's funny, though, because it's only the last of the three. I don't know why I went crazy. I think it was good to maybe split up the topical topics from the main thing, but then I split it up even further. But I'm almost glad I did, because the last half of his story, which was him coming home from his mission, that has like 130, listens, and the other two have like around 50. Mm-hmm. So I guess, I don't know, it's almost like it's good for people to segment it out so that people can hear exactly what they want.
Well, speaking of the segments, one loyal listener, true and faithful, was like, can you do it like Jeopardy, where you record like 5 months worth of episodes in one sitting and then slowly release it out to us? Because like we can't deal with the 2 weeks, the 10 days, 2 weeks. They're like, we need it in steady streams.
Steady streams.
And I was like, patience is a virtue.
No, it is true. We have been so, because it's been like the last time we had a podcast, like it's been a full week since we released the podcast. Mm-hmm. And anyway, we need to figure out a schedule a little bit better. This one's from Braden. Hey, Troy and Lyndon. Troy, you make a bad Jamie, as in Joe Rogan's Jamie. Oh. But I guess that's a recurring theme on the podcast now. Unresearched topics. Boom, back to the critiques. I got a great... This is before... He sent this before you recorded? Don't go touching that mic, London. Before we recorded the last episode with Braden. He continues, I got to agree with Lyndon's companion who couldn't listen to conference talks given with the Midwest mouse accent.
I want to take you to the temple. We will bake many cookies and vacuum our house. And the temple will
touch you, huh? Was that
and they
what
do
it
that
was
thing with their mouth?
Oh,
every 5
That's
seconds.
everybody, man. They needed like a big pitcher of water on that stand.
They need to pump some humidity into that room.
Lynn and I felt that when you said, I can't listen to those talks or whatever. I was like, yeah, same.
Any accent, I have a problem, Nothing against accents. I love accents. Do them all the time. He says, I infrequently listen to another podcast that occasionally has female guests on the podcast.
That sounds like
okay.
Uh-oh. However, their female guests are often from Utah, and I just can't stand listening to that accent. It's like a cheese grater on my soul. That's number 2 cheese grater reference this episode. I listened to those episodes for 5 minutes and then skipped the episode. So when you had Emma on the podcast, it was a pleasant surprise to hear a female voice on a podcast that wasn't cheese grating on my soul. Hey, shout out to Emma.
Well, she's like a professional talkie.
She's a professional talker, and which is another name for actor. He continues, and some anecdotal. It's true. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's a good.
And some anecdotal evidence of asking for donations. The last podcast that I listened to started up a Patreon and advertised their Patreon twice an episode. I no longer listened to that podcast. We should have read this before we started talking. Just wait for your listeners to harass you until you pony up the $100 yourself. Warm regards, Braden Aglas.
Well, that's the opposite of what Alex said.
Well, now what do you do?
I think there's 2 kinds of listeners, or at least, there's different kinds of listeners. There's the kind who are like, the moment anything is asked of them, they're gone. And then there's the true and faithful.
The true and faithful.
Who it's like the members club of those who, want to be faithful. We got one from this person named Alice Burns. It's definitely on the subject of monetization. It's just like a boilerplate email, just like a hey. But the content is they're asking about like this system where you like put ads on the podcast or whatever.
Are there like bots that just like
I think so.
Oh my
that
goodness.
just like
for
listen
podcasts.
to podcasts?
Yeah.
That's weird.
All right, let's listen to Jasmine's. I can hardly be bothered. Lyndon and Troy, I appreciate that you addressed Dan Reynolds and his agenda. I'm annoyed that Lyndon can hardly be bothered with the issue. I wonder how many other people feel like that, but just didn't write in. Dan Reynolds is saying the suicide rate in Utah has quadrupled in the last few years, specifically because of guilt from the Mormon Church. This is a huge issue I have with him. He doesn't have anything to back up this connection and has stated this in multiple interviews. He obviously knows nothing about the actual doctrine of the church on this issue. His whole goal is to change the church to accept active LGBTQ relationships, which is never going to happen. That doesn't mean that the church is teaching its members to shame and shun people with different sexual orientations. It's fantastic that Dan is an advocate for the LGBTQ community, but the fact that he is throwing the church under the bus because it is not going to change is ridiculous. I don't like that he is using the name of the church to push his own agenda and gain popularity. Yeah, that's kind of weird. The suicide issue is absolutely needs to be addressed, but it is not an issue only in Utah because of the Mormons, and I don't like the way Dan Reynolds is going about it. Discuss.
I don't know. She kind of said what I wanted to say, so...
Here's what I meant to say.
All right.
I will admit that with that statement, and they grouped you in here too, Troy.
Me.
They're like, you and Troy are a bunch of politicians refusing to take a side. Because that's the thing. Did we take a side? No. We were like, Dan Reynolds, The church, We were just kind of like, and so what that means is people on both sides of the issues get to hate us both.
Fair enough.
And so it's perfect where it's like, no.
I don't think...
But here's what I meant to say.
All right.
Besides the fact I took a neutral thing so everyone could hate me.
Yeah.
My problem was teen suicide. Tragedy, yes. And I hate the idea that they're like, we found a thing that both sides can agree on. Like, no one likes teen suicide.
No.
So they're like, perfect. Now we can use this to ride our agenda through.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it's like, it's using it as a club, even though suicide is like a very complicated thing. Even if someone says, like, in a suicide note, I killed myself because of this, it's like, that doesn't necessarily, that might have been, like, in their mind, the easiest thing they could point to.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of research to say it's so complicated, you can't just boil it down to a single factor like that. It definitely can help.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for that. And a good quote I heard once is like, there's two kinds of Mormons. Those who know a gay Mormon and those who don't know they know a gay Mormon.
Yes.
So it's like, it's definitely something that we need to be cognizant of.
Yeah.
and I know Lyndon was trying to say that. Like, you weren't just saying, I don't care. Who cares? Like,
I mean, it sounded like that's what you were saying.
I know you personally, so I know that if someone came to you and was like, hey, Lyndon, I'm struggling, I know you would not say to that person, I can't be bothered. You would say, oh my goodness, let me like help you and be your friend.
The
and
thing
be there
about
for you.
Lyndon's statements are that, like, on the absolute surface of it, you will take these very hard line, like, this is only what I'm talking about. But I don't know you really to have underneath, when you peel back the layers, it's all extremely nuanced. And it's hard, and this is one of those issues. I think every issue is nuanced, and that's like the big problem with today is that
Except
it's
for
hard
the flat
to
Earth. For the record, I do not believe in the flat Earth theory.
Well, there's some nuance there, Theo. Let's
No,
leave
there
room
is
for
no
nuance.
nuance.
Room for nuance.
No, Troy, do not put that on me.
Let's talk 9/11, guys. Building 7.
I'll even grant you nuance in that one, but I am just coming
So
down on the
much
flat
nuance.
Earth thing.
No, honestly, yeah. Earth is obviously round. Let's just make that clear.
Yeah.
God created it in 7 days to be round.
Oh my
so
goodness, trying.
7
Weird
Earth
thing
days.
for you to suddenly be orthodox about. Just like, yeah, no, I'm super unorthodox, except the young Earth creationism.
7,000 years, baby. No,
Yeah.
no more. No more.
No more, no less.
All that carbon dating. They took carbon from other places. That was older.
It's all lies. I don't believe that.
What were we saying? Oh yeah, Lyndon's nuance. Yeah. So I here's the thing about and that's sort of my point with like being looking at both sides. Like I don't know if I stand. Like it's hard for me to stand on one side or another on any subject because each side comes packaged with lots of things that maybe I don't necessarily agree with. So taking that sort of stance in the middle, or at least on trying to unpack the nuance of whatever the situation is, you got to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
That's kind of how so I always jump in the middle because like I'm not gonna like disavow Dan Reynolds,
Right.
Because it's like, is he a bit of an idiot? Yeah.
Makes
But
bad
also-
music.
But it's
Yeah.
like, but I'm not gonna like be in there and be like, yeah, he's a real jerk because he's like trying to be an ally to these people,
Yeah.
as misguided as he is.
Right, but you can.
And then I'm not gonna jump on the side of the church because there are members of the church who are real meanie faces to gay people.
yeah.
Sure. So you
So it's
wanna
like, why
call
am I going to climb into bed with either of them?
So you call out those.
I'm going to
people-
climb into my own bed, which is cozy.
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
There's no one else.
Shut my eyes to the issues.
Thank you.
What were you going to say something?
I'm just gonna say that, like, I think you can do that, and you can still take those lines where you can say the simple truths that it sounds like a cop out. Oh yeah, I think that this is bad, and we should stop people from doing it. But I also think that Dan Reynolds is being a bit disingenuous. Like, you know, he spends a whole chunk of his thing talking about how he got kicked out of BYU for having premarital sex.
Yeah.
And he's like, I felt so much shame for that.
He said unnecessary shame.
Unnecessary shame. And I'm like, you broke the honor code, my
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
And also, that's like a fundamental doctrine of the church. Like, there's this idea that, you know, all shame is bad.
Yeah.
If you feel any lick of shame, that is a very bad thing. It's like, no,
true.
shame can be useful. Shame can be good
Yeah.
to help us be better. Obviously, if it gets to a point that it's causing someone severe anxiety or things like that,
Yeah.
that's not the good shame. You got to, like, that's Satan, actually. I'm not even afraid to say that.
Yeah.
Making you feel worthless and that you can't change. But, like,
Yeah.
I felt so much unnecessary shame. Okay, well, you broke, like, a decent commandment, my friend, so sorry. Like,
And if you just like last time you Lennon made the Hitman comparison.
Right. There was also people were like the contract killer analogy. They're like, did it make sense? Yeah, not the best.
Well, if it made sense and it got the point across, I say it did its job.
Yeah.
Just like that Hitman, and just like Dan Reynolds didn't do.
and
with
there's,
his
like,
contract.
there's another interesting
With
thing
BYU.
about it where so there's like a real thing about the social contagion of suicide.
Right.
And that's why newspapers don't like to say, like, when Anthony Bourdain killed himself, they weren't
Yeah.
like, Anthony Bourdain commits suicide. It was, he died. And then you had to read quite a bit in to see
Yeah.
that he did. And that's because they found that the more that they say that in newspapers, the more it causes people to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wonders that if Dan Reynolds keeps on this crusade and keeps talking about gay Mormon suicide, how many gay teenage Mormons that maybe wouldn't have considered it are now like, it's like putting the idea in their head. And I'm
yeah.
not saying like you can't talk about it. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I just think you got to be careful about how you approach it.
Well, yeah, it's like that
would-
article.
It would suck if it did more damage than good. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I hope it does good. I hope it helps people.
The idea being that like it is sort of the normalization of like that suicide is a fit response to
Sure, that it's like, yeah,
bullying.
everyone's doing it.
Yeah, it's like many people are doing it, so it's like I wouldn't blame you for doing it. sort
Kind
a
of.
thing.
That's the fear.
That's the fear.
Yeah. So I
which-
would be concerned about it.
Yeah. Again, it is a thing that needs nuance, and probably the biggest problem I would have with the way that, yeah, sort of like the frenzy, the tide of like this whole subject and how it's happening is the lack of nuance. And it is just swung to the opposite side of the spectrum. And whenever that happens, you're losing some of the truth in that. So,
And then you push people away that you could make allies if you just used a more moderate response.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a bunch of hard stock members and say, the church is causing gay kids to kill themselves, they're going to be like, well, you're clearly like an
Yeah.
antagonist. But if you say, hey, one thing I think we could do better as a culture is recognizing the people who are walking an extremely difficult road,
Yeah.
who don't have a lot of support, and looking out for that. How can we help them? How can we be better?
Yeah.
How can we be more like Jesus Christ and walk with those people in their journeys? I don't know. I think that's a pretty reasonable
I
take,
think it's
right?
fair. I think it's fair, and I don't think anyone's going to get mad at you for saying any of that.
No one's going to come after me and try to get me fired from my job, right?
Your goal has been achieved, Theo. I don't think you said anything inflammatory.
Well, thank you, Troy.
I don't think, but
Well,
this
now
is
we're-
coming from me, though.
Now we're not going to get any emails about Theo now. Maybe everything I say is just to drive those emails.
Maybe everything. Maybe you're just. What was that? Was there like some news guy who like told lies in order to like drive up sales?
Brian Williams?
Brian Williams.
He like told lies about being on helicopters in
getting
Iraq.
shot down.
Yeah.
And Hillary Clinton, she was like lied about being shot at or something.
I don't know.
And then some actor, Sinbad outed her or something. I don't know. Anyway, little tangent there. What else did we have to talk about? Was there anything else we needed to bring up?
The church news.
Oh yeah. Yes, the big news. Guess what? Name of the church.
Yeah.
In a sense, changed.
Changed. And who was right the whole time? The Mission Stories podcast. Or was that you who said that first?
No, I said something like the opposite. Didn't I? I said something really
Yeah,
stupid.
you took the orthodox approach and
No,
said
I was
it's
like,
never
he-
going to change.
I don't know what I said, but it was something that everyone quickly was like, you predicted that wrong. I was like,
You're
"Yes."
dumb. Oh yeah. You actually like you. I don't want to say backpedaled, but
Yeah.
you.
I had to retract.
You
know?
retracted. Yeah.
I did. But yeah, he avowed the name of the church.
Yeah. It's Lennon. What's the name of the church now?
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hyphen
Wait.
lowercase d.
What?
Ladder hyphen. That's the way you remember how it's like spelled. Hyphen lowercase d. Ladder hyphen lowercase day saints.
Latter Day.
Because people sometimes spell it, they like make a capital D,
Latter-day
or
Saints.
they
False.
forget the hyphen.
Oh, so it's just LS now, not LDS.
No, I'm saying that like that's how you write it out in full.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
and it's also not LDS.
It's not LDS.
We're
It's
done
not
with that
Mormon.
acronym.
Mormon was the big thing that they're
And the
just
thing
like
I
we're
like-
done with Mormon.
Is who broke the
Mormonism.
story on Twitter? LDS Church News.
Well, there's going to be a.
And
There's probably going to be a.
and that was
period
one
of
thing. It's like
change.
LDS Church. You can't call it the Latter-day Saint Church. It's not the Church of Latter-day Saints.
No, Church of Jesus Christ, baby.
You can say I'm a Latter-day Saint. I would also like to add, I was way ahead of the curve with those Facebook things where they changed to like I'm a Mormon.
Yeah,
I was like, no, miss me with that. I was like, I'm a Latter-day Saint.
yeah,
I'm not putting that on my profile picture.
yeah. I try not to get too wound up in those things that in 5 years from now are going to be against church policy.
I remember there was even dissonance at the time. Like we had the I'm a Mormon campaign,
Yeah.
and someone gave a talk in conference. I think it was like Ballard or someone that said, "We use the name Mormon, but we really need to focus on the name of the church." And it was kind of like, we're still going to do the
Ballard.
I'm a Mormon campaign, but also like try and, it was a bit confusing at the time. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
there's been a specific look. This is what it's going to be now.
Why do you think the change happened?
I have my ideas. I don't know if you guys. This isn't my podcast, so just gonna retreat in the
You're-
couch here.
Yeah,
You're on the podcast.
I don't want to monopolize
your-
everything.
Well, here's my theory. The Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
He still wants to change that name. And what better way to warm people up to it than to slowly get the word Mormon out?
Get it out.
Yeah.
Why does he want to change the name of Book of Mormon?
And then
I'm saying it like it's true, like it's a thing.
so it'll be another testament of Jesus Christ, and then in like 10-point font, the Book of Mormon.
Do you think it's the South Park, the Trey Parker, Matt Stone thing that?
I honestly think that's the reason we stuck with Mormon for so long, even though it was conflicted for a time.
Yeah.
Like, I think they realized, look, this is a good opportunity. We might as well take advantage of it. And now it's worn out its welcome. And when you say the word Mormon, or when you talk about fundamentalist Mormons,
Yeah.
it like instantly wraps us in with the polygamist
It's true.
Jeff, whatever his name is.
Warren Jeffs.
That's the one, Warren
Yeah.
Jeffs. So it's like, this isn't going to pay dividends in the next 10 years, but maybe in the next 50 years, slowly the wheels will turn, and eventually it'll be like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Mormons will be like a separate...
Yeah, I haven't seen. Have you guys seen any like secular world news organizations?
Yeah, some covered it.
Any reactions to this at all?
I saw one, the
Does
National
anyone
Post
care?
covered it and said, Mormon church leader asks people to stop using the word Mormon. And I was like, okay.
Well, I understand like the, sort of the irony and the sarcasm of that statement,
Yeah.
because it's like everyone knows us as that thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when Church of Christ, changed their name to
The
Church of
reorganized
Christ.
church, yeah.
Yeah, reorganized Church of... What were they called?
Community of Christ.
That's what they're
Talking about
called
They're
now.
the reorganized...
RLDS.
Yeah.
RLDS, right. And they changed it to Church of Christ, Community of Christ. And to the
Well, they
point
didn't
of
change
like,
it. They got bought out, didn't they?
they sold out. Yeah, got bought out. What were they before? Did they own something? Like, who owns the...
They own the Kirtland Temple.
They own the Kirtland Temple. Okay.
and a few
That's those
other
guys.
sites, I think, in the area.
Like Independence or something.
Yeah, yeah. Some
Um,
stuff out there.
That's interesting. I wonder if the so what do we call it? The church. I remember the church was
the Church
one of
of
the
Jesus
acceptable
Christ, or
things.
like, I'm a follower of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's no more Mormonism
which is good
But you can
because
call it the church.
why? Like, who cares about
because it is
Mormon?
the church.
Yeah.
Who cares
The
about
church.
that guy?
Only when you're reading.
Right?
Yeah.
We follow Jesus Christ. We don't follow Mormon. Like, we like him, I guess, but we don't.
Yeah. I guess we like him.
He was all right. He
He
wrote
was
a good book.
okay. He was a guy.
Yeah.
Got a book.
He
named
compiled
after
the
him.
book.
He was like the
he didn't
librarian.
even
You know,
write it.
and
He was-
some might say Moroni did most of the heavy lifting.
He didn't
Literally.
even write it. He
Literally
just
heavy
grabbed,
Those are heavy plates.
grabbed some pages off the shelf and put them together and stuck a little blurb in between.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, you heard it here first, folks. The name of the church has changed, and for all future prophecies, come here first,
Yeah.
and we will have the dirty dirt, the scoop. Anything else we wanted to discuss? Anything else in the what I meant to say segment?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Well, let's make some more statements that we'll have to correct next week. We have a guest, as we mentioned. We have a topic we
Yeah.
kind of want to discuss.
Yeah, I got some stories.
You have
to-
some mission stories?
There was
Yeah.
one thing. Did you want to sort of like settle the? Because I don't know if we ever like covered this of like
Oh,
me putting you on blast.
no,
You wanted
it's fine.
to like correct some.
It was funny. I laughed. I did laugh at it, but
Okay,
then also
good.
was just like, nah, I don't know if that really represents me. Like,
Yeah.
I would say that I'm more orthodox than I used to be.
I would say so too. Yeah.
Like, I used to be the guy in Institute that was like, actually, like, and I resent that to this day. I feel very bad for being that guy. I wish I wasn't, but I was in a different place.
Yeah.
And, but now, like, I'm a little more orthodox. I think I try to err more on the side of like, probably the prophet isn't making a mistake in saying this. I still have some things that I'm like, I interpret that a little differently. I am definitely like a firm believer in evolution and like a lot of the science stuff is more my jam. That's where I come into conflict more often than not.
Yeah.
I do remember one time on my mission, I can say that here. We're mission
Actually, you
stories.
have a really interesting story.
Right, and we can get to that later. But one time I texted.
Forgot about that.
President Nelson now was giving a talk where he like disavowed the Big Bang. He was like, there was no Big Bang that made us all be the way that we are. And I texted some companion and was like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think it really contradicts. And he said something back like, well, Elder Gibb, the time will come where you will have to choose which camp you're in. And I was just like, okay, I don't.
All right. Yeah.
And in a way, he was right, because the time did come and I did have to make a choice. And I chose one camp and then changed my mind. So, but so science, I'm pretty unorthodox on that, I guess. I don't think the church really doubles down on it anymore.
Yeah, they've
like
sort
they
of
used
like
to.
backed away from it almost.
But and then at one point you said like, yeah, Theo said that bishops aren't asking about like masturbation or something, and I was like, I don't know if I said that.
I'm just saying that's where I heard that from.
Yeah,
it was a rumor.
I didn't say
heard
that
it
on the
from
record. I think I just said there's less of a focus on some more of the specifics now. The bishops are trying to like just stick to the scripts.
I just realized how incriminating and how insinuating that statement would be. It's like, yeah, my good friend Theo, he's always talking to the bishop about it. I guess he's not asking as much anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I said that. I was like, okay.
So anyway, that's not what I meant.
Okay. But
Theo's a good boy.
Yeah.
Lyndon, where do you stand on what was the Big Bang? Big Bang. Did we have a Big Bang?
It could be, yeah. There's definitely a TV series about
right down the middle
coming to an end.
Honestly, though,
it's coming to an end.
I do try to take positions like that where I say I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. This is the best evidence I have, so this is what I'm going to say.
Well, yeah.
I'm not going to bring it up in Sunday school. I'm not going to correct the teacher. It's not my crusade. But like, if someone asks me, I have no fear about being like, yeah, there's probably a Big Bang and people like lived here before the fall, and the flood was probably either really local or didn't, like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just tell me how you feel about India and Pakistan's border dispute. Where do you stand on that?
No comment.
I didn't know that was happening, so
that's exactly how I feel about the Big Bang.
Fair enough.
Where it's like, okay, so
fair. That's the wisest opinion ever.
It's one way the universe could have came into creation, or it's not. Regardless, here I am.
Yeah. Hey, I respect that.
What would you say, Lyndon, that you're like prime philosophical? Because I know you're a very philosophical man, or at least you're knowledgeable about these different philosophies. But I'm trying to like pinpoint, like, what is exactly your, like, if Wisecrack, the YouTube channel, did like a philosophy of Lyndon Naglis, like what would it be? Because I heard something about Stoicism the other day, and I'm like, Stoicism? That's the one where you're just sort of like, whatever is. Right? Am I right about that?
Sort of.
Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah.
That's the man.
Just like joy can be found through following a strict set of rules and stuff for life. Like that's how you find your meaning, as opposed to the heathen. What are the ones that go and do everything they want?
Hedonists.
That's the word. Yeah.
Stoicism, like a lot of things, is slightly nuanced. You can't really boil it down into.
Is that your thing, though?
I wouldn't say so.
What would you say yours is?
I would say it's.
If you have one, do you have one?
Well,
maybe it's just
I saw a little headline about how studying and reading philosophy increases people's like critical skepticism.
Yeah.
Which is what makes people pick middle grounds more often.
Hey.
So,
which is a good. I don't know. I think it's a good thing, honestly.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you had to put it, it's just a healthy critical skeptic.
Okay. I thought about that in terms of like politics too. I'm just like, what is this thing we have with like, we're obsessed with left and right. We're obsessed with like, can we not truly have a third party that's like right in the middle or thereabouts, or on some more in the center of like some issues? Like maybe it's like you believe in one thing but not another. Like, you know, whatever, pick and choose whatever or at least a candidate that's more buffet with their.
See, that's what I would prefer, because it's tough. How do you get in the middle thing where it's like, what's in the middle on something like abortion, where some people say no, it must be allowed at all costs, and some people say no, it must be prevented at all costs. Like, there's some things where it seems like there are some political issues where it's really tough to find those compromises.
But then truly, if you could segment out, you know, all of the, like, if you had a candidate sort of for each level of the spectrum, maybe, you know, on just left of center, you had the person who was like, all right, you know, obviously in some instances abortions are necessary, and then on the right of it, it's just, you know, like, and in that case, the people can truly vote for, like, the majority can vote for exactly what the most people want.
Well, thank goodness you have a economist on this podcast who took political economics.
Whoa.
And I forget, obviously I'm a great economist. I don't remember what it's called, something voter modality. I don't know. It's the whole point of, political preferences are a normal distribution.
Yeah.
Where most people are moderates or they sway just slightly to the right or left of the middle.
Yeah.
And so that's why, an example in Canada, recent news, Mad Max, he ditched the Conservative Party because, so if you're just a party that picks the middle, you don't separate yourself out.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, the Liberals are like just left of center, the Conservatives are just right of center. And then what that means is, like, they pick up a big chunk of the majority in the middle, plus all the wackos way out further on each side.
Yeah.
And so that's why they lost Mad Max, because he's, like, way out, further out to the right.
Yeah.
So he's going to collect all those, like, votes far out right, which there are lots to be had. Mm-hmm. But then he'll lose out on the majority of them, which is why they always talk about two-party systems. It's not worth splitting. Well, no, like having a multiple party system. So now it's like this guy forms his own party. He's just stealing those far right votes from the Conservative Party, because those people would vote for the Conservatives not because their political opinions align with them, but because they're just like the closest thing they have. So it's just a matter of statistics.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
So if you picked a party right in the middle, you wouldn't win anyone over on each side.
Let's get away from politics. I'm tired of this. Let's talk about something completely apolitical. Guns.
Yeah.
Everybody, Detroit.
It's Lyndon.
At the end of this episode, sorry, it's kind of an abrupt end, but we decided to cut up sort of the topical topics portion and the next portion where we're going to talk all about guns on the mission and some stories from that. I tell a story about ghosts and guns. Theo talks about freedom. You talk about...
That's a general theme when you talk about guns.
Yeah, you talk about preppers. And so anyway, and I dry fire a lot of guns. So anyway, check out that episode. It's going to be up now, and we'll catch you. We'll see you there.